Hi, everybody. Hi. Good morning. I am so excited to be here today to be talking to these both incredible women. They are redefining power. They are challenging what has been an adversity for them and making it into and activating it into a meaningful change. I'm so excited to be here with Halima Aden and Amanda Nguyen. Hi, ladies. They're shattering traditional stereotypes, and they are really changing the game for what is an actual game changer. So I'm very honored to be here with both of you. So Halima and I have a few things in common. But first and foremost, Halima is breaking barriers in the fashion industry when xenophobia is at a peak. And she's a proud Somali American who is now a UNICEF ambassador. Mm-hmm. She is also, she's made history as Miss Minnesota first. She's the first one to ever don a hijab and a burkini on stage. There she goes. And also she signed with IMG. She's in the family as their first hijabi. And also she is another part of the family. She's in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition as the first ever model to wear a hijab and a full burkini. So this is history, you guys. This is Halima. And Amanda Nguyen, she created the Sexual Assault Survivor Bill of Rights, which unanimously passed the state and the House and became law in 2016. She was just 24 years old when she did that. She also is a survivor of rape when she was a student at Harvard, but she has now helped organize and pass this bill in 22 different states. Amongst all of that, she's a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, and she's training to be an astronaut. Very casual, I'd say, Amanda. Jeez, I want to talk about the astronaut thing later.
Yay!
So I want to talk about something that is not only prevalent in our lives, but the women here today and the young girls who are coming up in this next generation. And it's about finding your voice and channeling that personal experience to drive positive change. So Amanda, Halima, what did you face and what made it harder for you to find and share your voice when you were here challenging adversity?
First of all, it's such an honor to share the stage with both of you, and thank you so much for having me here today. I think the most powerful tool that we all have is our voice. And that's why I'm using mine to fight for the rights that I care about. But honestly, the most difficult thing was being able to take that first step, which is just realizing, oh, maybe what seems impossible, like rewriting the law or going to space, after all, isn't so impossible. It's just that first choice to make. And for me, making the choice to go for it has made all the difference.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I agree 100% with what Amanda said, minus the astronaut part. I wish, girl, I wish.
You can.
But for me, I just never saw anybody who looked like me or somebody I could relate to, especially growing up in the States. So I took it upon myself to be that person. And it was kind of by accident, but like you said, you have to make the first step, and that's what led me to here. I had to make multiple first steps to get here.
Right. What qualities about both of yourself did you guys have to exercise to break these barriers?
For myself, being a child refugee early on, I've had so many things instilled in me, and it's always like that thought of like, I've already started from here, so I can only go up. So having that in the back of my mind has always inspired me to do my best and try to, like not being afraid to be the first to do things, and like just putting myself out there. I think that, yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, for me, I think courage is not the lack of fear, but rather having it and moving forward anyways. And I have so much of it. I'm so terrified all the time, but for me, being able to just be risk-taking and keep moving forward and not being afraid to fail. I had hundreds of meetings with politicians, and I failed so often with so many of them when they didn't care. But in the end, it worked.
It's always good to talk about failure, and I think a lot of people can get on stage and talk about, you know, it's okay to fail, but when you're in the middle of failure, it can really feel like the biggest doom and gloom over your life. So it's always a great reminder to know that you're not the only one failing, and failing isn't a no, it's only gonna bring you to the next stage of your life. And I'm also glad that you talked about being the first, because
I mean, look at Miss Ashley Graham. Can we just please?
I'm interviewing, you're not interviewing.
But your story is important, you know, it's very important. And even for me, a girl in Minnesota looking up to you and like being the first plus size model to go out there, just a beautiful woman, and like what your story stands for. Thank you for inspiring me.
You're
and
so
to
sweet.
share the stage with you today is a dream come true.
You're so sweet, thank you, thank you. Well, what I was gonna say was, I thought you just love her, she's just so cute. Breaking the stereotypes and being the first can also be really scary. And Elaine Welteroth, she just had an interview with her book that just came out, and she has this quote that says, "Anyone who's been first to do anything will tell you that it comes with a real responsibility and a unique opportunity to do something that's never been done before if you're able to bring your authentic self to the role." And it's like, wow, how could you not agree with that more? So I wanted to talk to you guys. Did you guys realize that you were breaking barriers while you were on your own journey?
I guess for myself, because my community has never had that, it didn't really feel like, it felt kind of scary to be the first. But then being the first means nothing if there's not a second, a third, a fourth. You know, if you're not making space for other women to come.
Yep.
So for me, I've always taken pride in the fact that I've always had girls coming up to me, and it might have been scary to be the first, but then hearing girls saying, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that you could do that. I did not know you could be a modest dressing girl and still work in high fashion and not have to conform, and people are willing to meet you halfway. People are willing to work with your values and who you are. You don't have to strip to like make it, you know? So hearing girls coming up to me and saying that has always just been mind-blowing, and I'm like, okay, so I do have a purpose, you know?
Yeah.
I can feel proud about that.
And who knew? Sports Illustrated too.
And Sports Illustrated! I did not tell my mom. Oh, yeah, girl. It was news for my entire family when that came out. Because I also have African parents, and you know, girl, you're shaking your head. So
You'll have to give a TED Talk on that one.
Yes, I'd like to hear that. What motivated me wasn't being first. You know, for me, I had to fight for my rights because it was sheer survival. You know, I didn't have the political luxury of a cathartic performance. When I walked into the halls of Congress, I couldn't only scream, I had to negotiate and work with people no matter where they were from. And I think I realized in a very sobering way, the moment that I was first was when it hurt. When I walked into a room and I was the only person of color witness for a hearing, and you know, where they didn't believe that I was supposed to be there. And I know that each one of us, even if we may not have been first, have had that moment of alienation. But it's in these moments that we have the chance to really stand up for our community. And it's so hard to be what we can't see. And so I just want to tell everyone out there that you absolutely have it in you already. You are fully enough, especially if you're there because you're fighting for something you deeply believe in. And that enough will be enough not only for you, but for the world as well.
Yeah, sometimes survival will, yeah. I really believe that survival will just like take everything to the sideline, and that will be like the pure focus. It won't matter if you're the first or the second or like the only one in your lane. And I can imagine that's exactly what you were going through. But I also want to talk about navigating the pressures of how you got there through your community, because I'm sure there was all kinds of pressure. Amanda?
Oh, yeah. I don't want to generalize, so I'll just speak from my own community. In the specific community that I grew up, it was the norm to put your head down and to not make a fuss, right? If something happened to you, you just took it. I did not do that by literally standing up to the United States Congress, whatever. But so I was a bad Asian girl. But I think it's so important for everyone to just realize that your community will be there for you when they realize that you're coming from an authentic place, right? And I honestly didn't have the support of my community when I first started, but I knew that if I were to try and to fight for these rights, that it would come around, and they did end up coming around.
It did?
Yeah.
What was the outcome of the people who came around?
You know, I think it is that being able to see someone do it for the first time. When Crazy Rich Asians came out, people described it as being able to see something, see themselves have full stories. You know, like our stories matter too. And obviously, media and movies are empathy machines, but that also is applicable in every single industry.
That's great. Halima, what about the pressures in representing your community?
Girl, my mom is still saying, "Can you get a real job?"
Really?
Because it's not traditional. Like modeling is not something that's Somali tradition, and kind of like you were saying, the community didn't fully understand it in the beginning. But I always tell my mom it's a platform, just another platform for me to use and to share my story, because the truth is she'll never understand. Like a lot of our parents, you're nodding your head yes. It's hard when you're first generation. It's hard when you have so many identities. You know, on one hand, I'm a proud Somali. Like, I'm proud of my heritage. I'm a proud refugee. I'm not ashamed of those things. But on the other hand, I grew up in America. I was raised here. I'm a proud American. So I have these dual identities, and I'm also Muslim, and I also choose to wear the hijab. So growing up, I needed to be the representation, because I know what it feels like to not have anybody that you could relate to not have anybody that you could look up to, and what you can't see, you can't be. And I think we should all make it our life mission that every little boy and girl should have somebody, you know, somebody that they could look up to, somebody who has a similar story. So that's what I tell my mom, you know, and the way we've kind of the middle ground for her and I, because you know she's all about education. She didn't walk 12 days from Somalia to Kenya for me to just walk a runway. Wow. You know, actually, when I brought home my first book cover, it was monumental to the little girls in my family, but to my mom, she's like, okay, don't forget to wash the dishes. She's very like that kind of mama.
Keep you humble.
So what I tell her is like, I'm combining fashion with activism. Yeah. So that's been our like middle ground.
That's good, that's important. And I think that now as a model with a voice, I think it's also important that you use it, and you are doing it very beautifully. We can talk about courage and we can talk about confidence, but there's always self-doubt that goes with those things. And I wanna know, and I'm always interested to hear from women who I admire and I look up to, where do you get your confidence and where do you get your courage? And it's something that I'm asked all the time, and sometimes it's like an eye roll at this point, because it's like, what, you know, you see the big girl in a bikini, you want to call it, you know, courage, but this is on another level of courage and confidence, and I want to understand where you gain it from.
Yeah, honestly, it's something that I'm working on every single day, and the real place where I got confidence from was not in myself, but in a deep, deep belief in what I'm fighting for. Because at some point, I realized along the campaign that I was doing when I was fighting for this, that anger can only fuel movements, but it can't sustain it. And that hope is what sustains things. And an understanding that my story was not mine alone. there were millions of other people who shared that too, and that it's bigger than me. And so it became so much easier to stand up to senators, to whomever, when it wasn't about me, it was about the cause that I was fighting for. And that's really helped.
That's great.
Girl, I think surrounding myself with powerful women and like having a tribe, and that's your girlfriends. That's how many of you in the room are moms, like working moms? Can we like surrounding yourself with powerful women for me has always been like, anytime I feel doubtful, I'm like, this woman did it. You know, you're here, you pulled up a seat to the table, each and every one of you. And so it inspires me to pull up my own seat to the table. And
so you're especially inspired by working mothers? I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, is that, do you see yourself?
I had a point to it, but it somehow got lost.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm inspired by them too. I think that they're dope. And
but not just working moms, but I guess I say that because, you know, my team is made of working moms.
yes, yeah.
Boy, did that get lost in the mist, but yes,
No, so
absolutely.
I love it. How can we train and teach young girls to cultivate this? Because I think that that's something that's so tangible that they're always missing, that they're always wanting. And it's something that it's like, how can you give that confidence and that courage to a younger girl and teach her how to cultivate it?
I always tell my little cousins, don't change yourself, change the game, change the game. And I always try to inspire even myself, like, okay, if I don't see somebody who looks like me, who I could relate to in any space, like, okay, maybe I should be that person. And simple things like, okay, it might not be a big deal to a lot of people to shoot in a magazine or to be in Sports Illustrated wearing a burkini. But then when you really look at all the issues, especially for my community, the burkini is a swimsuit, a modest swimsuit. That's no different than a bikini. And I've always been like somebody who is, we all deserve our choice when it comes to our body and what we want to wear. And so that, to me, shooting in that magazine for me represented, it's my choice. And it's so timely because there are countries and public pools that have banned it. So for me, it has a very significant meaning, and it might not hold that same meaning to everybody, and that's okay. So I try to inspire girls like, okay, don't just think of it one way, but always try to have multiple perspectives and take the first step. That sounds really easy, take the first step, but taking the first step is what led me to taking the second step, which has led me to being here today.
That's good advice, though.
I want to build on what you said about tribes and about having each other's backs, because I think for so many people, it's really important to understand that no one is powerless when we come together, you know, and no one is invisible when we demand to be seen. Something that I struggle with a lot is surviving in a world playing the rules of a game that isn't built for me to win. I think a lot of us, especially as women, understand this within the respective industries that we're in. And so the adage oftentimes is, if you're not at the table, you know, if you don't have a seat at the table, then you're what's on the menu. And so I think somebody else said, then bring your own seat and make your own table and build your own power. Right?
Amen.
Be something that no one has ever seen before, and invite other people in your community, bring them up too.
That's great advice. That's great advice. Okay, so I host a podcast called Pretty Big Deal, and we do a little fireside chat, like a little round. So I want to do a quick little fireside chat, or like a little speed round with you guys. Okay, is that cool?
Cool.
Okay. Pretty big project, something you guys are working on that you can tell us.
Oh yeah. How you want to go?
Okay, I'm working on my 3rd field visit with UNICEF.
Wow.
So I'm excited. We haven't picked the country, but
That's fantastic.
yeah, we're
That's
working on
great.
it, yes.
I'm working on a United Nations Universal Survivor Bill of Rights. First of its kind. It'll protect 1.3 billion survivors, and tomorrow I'll be at the UN to fight for it, and today actually. So
Congrats, I can't wait to see that get passed.
Thank you.
Pretty big mentor.
Leland Melvin, he's an astronaut. He's also was formerly in the NFL, so still all the dreams. But Leland was the one I went to when I said, I want to fight for civil rights, and how will that impact my astronaut aspirations? He said, girl, space is going to be there. It's going to be there long after you're gone. So you can go fight for your rights and come back.
Great. Pretty big mentor?
My mom.
Oh,
Period.
I love that. Okay, last one. Pretty big dream.
A world where anyone, no matter who you are, where you're from, can be whatever it is that they want to be.
That's great.
Steel.
Steel.
Love that.
Thank you guys for joining Amanda, Halima, and I.